Hi, this is Jane at the Tahlequah Public Library again, and we're looking at some staff recommendations of books. The first one is something that I'm going to recommend. These are some of my favorite books. It's a trilogy by an author named Mark Lawrence. It's called the Book of the Ancestor Trilogy, and the genre that I prefer to read the most is fantasy. I do read other genres, but it's the one that I prefer to read the most. And this trilogy is actually one of my most favorite of all fantasy I've read, or really any book I've read. The first book is called The Red Sister. The second book is The Gray Sister. And the third and last book is Holy Sister. And these are not your stereotypical fantasies, with elves and dragons and goblins and werewolves and things like this. It takes place in a dying world, and the people have been pushed together into this very narrow quarter that's about 50 miles wide, and the rest of the planet is covered in these huge sheets of ice. So all the people are forced into this small area, and so they're having to compete for land and resources, which is causing a lot of conflict. And everybody is descended from 4 tribes. Each tribe is distinguished by certain attributes. So some of them might be very large-sized people. Other ones are very fast and quick, and they also have dark eyes and hair. And another group has some lesser magic abilities. And then the final group, they are able to walk the path, which means that they are able to manipulate magic to a much greater degree than the others. And not everybody has these abilities. And where these people originally, these tribes originally came from is also a mystery. They talk about them being the builders. They came on ships, so maybe they crash landed on this planet years ago, hundreds of years ago. But the main setting is a place called the Convent of Sweet Mercy. And this convent, these girls, most of whom come from influential or well-off families, they are sent to this convent to be trained in to be kind of warrior nuns, and some will end up devoting themselves to religious devotion and service to others. Others will be trained in the fighting arts, like the martial arts, and they will go out and maybe be hired by people to fight. Others are experts in stealth and spying and like alchemy and creating poisons and other things like that. And some of them become experts in walking the path, which is kind of this mystical ability and manipulating magic. The main character is an orphan girl, Nona, who in the very beginning is saved from being hung at the gallows by a lady named Abbess Glass, who's the head of the convent. So these stories follow Nona and the other novices and the nuns at the Convent of Sweet Mercy as they fight against various forces, trying to gather more and more power into their own hands and use their influence to, destroy other people or gain more power for themselves. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of politics in it. And so there's just a lot going on in these books. There's mystery about Nona's past. Where did she come from? Her story keeps changing, and you don't know what's happening and what's the truth and what's not the truth. Then there's the origins of all these tribes and the people themselves. Where did they come from? How did they get here? Why do I like these books so much? I've read The Red Sister multiple times. I've read Gray Sister and The Holy Sister both twice each, and now I've actually listened to all 3 books on audio. But the main reason that I like these books so much is the characters, specifically Nona, and the relationships that develop between Nona and some of the other characters. Just the friendships and the loyalty that Nona has. Even though she's kind of the orphan growing up in this convent setting, like a school setting, she's not downtrodden. She's tough and she's real fierce. She will go after anybody that tries to hurt her friends. And some of the other characters, memorable characters, are Abbess Glass. She seems like this deceptively just older lady who's, the kindly head of the convent, but she really turns out to have her hands in a lot of different pies, and she's ultimately like a politician, and she's really looking to the future and playing the long game, but I didn't realize that for a long time. Some of the other novices, Hessa and Nona's relationship with these people, Ara, Clara. They're just really memorable characters. Some of the nuns, Sister Apple, Sister Kettle, and the way that they interact with each other and their adventures and some of the things that they do. I mean, it's just really a good book. So the mystery, the action adventure, the friendships, the twists and the turns, the things that I didn't see coming. I just really loved all of them. The Goodreads ratings for these books are The Red Sister, the first book, which actually was my favorite, but it tends not to be other people's favorite. But the rating for Goodreads on first book, Red Sister, was 4.13. For The Gray Sister, it's 4.39. That seems to be most people's favorite of the three. And then the last one, The Holy Sister, the rating on that one is 4.33. The first and second books are available through the library as regular books. The third one is not available through the library right now, but you could get it through interlibrary loan. I'm not sure why we don't have it as a book. And then all three of them are available on Hoopla. So I would really recommend all three of the Book of the Ancestor books. And it's funny because I've tried to read other books by this author before, and I didn't really like any of them, but these three, I really loved them, and they're some of my favorite books. Okay, and then the next staff recommendation is actually a book called The Library of the Dead. It's by T.L. Huchu, and this is a brand new book at the library. The staff member that recommends it came in and said, "Oh, you have to read this book. It is another fantasy book. It's about a teenage girl. Her name is Ropa. She's from Zimbabwe, but now she lives in Scotland." The book actually takes place in Edinburgh. She seems older, so she's a very kind of adult teenager. She's about 15 years old, and she works as a ghost talker, which means that she can see and hear ghosts, and they will talk to her, and then she can relay whatever message that ghost wants to people that are alive still and give them messages. And then she actually will charge the people money to relay that message to them. So like in the very beginning, she goes to a house of some people that are having trouble with a ghost that's haunting their house, and she talks to the ghost and finds out what the problem is and what will take care of the problem, and she tells the people and they pay her, and then they take care of the problem, and then the ghost can be at rest. So that's how Ropa earns her living. She lives in Edinburgh, like I said, in Scotland, but it's kind of an alternate Scotland in that it's separated from the UK, so it's not part of the UK anymore. And then they have a king, but the king is actually a real ruler. He's not like a figurehead king. I mean, he actually rules. The country's trying to come back, things are bad. It's a little dystopian. And Ropa lives with her grandmother and her little sister, and so she's trying to support the family by doing this ghost talking. So the main story is Ropa keeps being visited by a ghost who's worried about her son, and she tells Ropa that children are kind of having their spirit and their life force removed from them, and they're just walking around like husks. They don't have any joy or happiness. They're just stumbling around. And she wants Ropa to find out why these kids are just going around like empty shells and what she can do about it. So in the course of her investigation, Ropa stumbles onto all sorts of secrets in Edinburgh that she didn't know anything about, and one of them is the Library of the Dead. So Ropa works to increase her ability. She has an instrument, a Zimbabwean instrument that she uses to talk with the ghosts, and it's pretty interesting. Right now on Goodreads, it has a rating of 3.61. Right now it's only available as a book at the library. It's brand new. We don't have it on an e-format at this time, but maybe we'll be getting it that way later. And then the final book is actually a young adult book. It's called House of Salt and Sorrows. This one was also a staff recommendation. It's by Erin Craig, and this book is a kind of retelling of the fairy tale of the 12 dancing princesses. The main character, Anna Lee, lives with her 11 sisters, her father, and her stepmom in this big mansion on an island, and the mansion's right next to the sea. And I guess salt really figures into this book too, like salt gets into the house and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, 4 of the sisters have died, and some people in the villages and stuff think that the family is cursed. So Anna Lee doesn't believe that these were just natural deaths. She gets real suspicious about them. And her remaining sisters keep going out night after night to these fancy balls, and they're wearing these fancy dresses, and Anna Lee wonders if she should be stopping them from going to these balls, and she wonders who else is at these balls, and should she stop them from going, or should she start going herself to see what's going on. And she ends up meeting a mysterious stranger while she's trying to find out what's going on. So there is a little bit of romance in this one. And the person that recommended this book said that they really liked it because it was spooky. It kind of had that gothic feel. The island was real atmospheric with the sea and the mystery and the sisters and all of the ghosts and things like that. The Goodreads rating on this book was 3.93. Like I said, we do have it as a book at the library, and we also have it as an audio too. That's all the books for this month, but next month we're going to be looking at some spooky, kind of Halloween-y, scary stories. So if you have any ideas for us, let us know, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye!